It was one of those rare winter days when the snow seemed to fall in a perfect, unbroken blanket, covering the world in a soft, quiet layer. Lily, a 5-year-old girl with golden hair and a bright pink puffer jacket, had been out playing in the yard for hours. The cold didn't bother her, she was used to it. The air was crisp and fresh, and the crunch of snow underfoot was music to her ears. She twirled around, watching the tiny snowflakes swirl around her, smiling as they landed on her nose. "Catch me, snowflakes." Lily giggled, her voice high and light as she spun in circles. She loved the snow, and for the most part, she loved being outside by herself, where she could imagine all sorts of adventures. But that morning, something felt different. The world around her was quieter, almost too quiet, as if the snow itself had swallowed the sound of everything. Lily stopped spinning and looked around. The trees that lined the edge of the yard were almost completely covered in snow, their branches hanging low. The woods behind her house, usually full of life, seemed eerily still. A chill ran down her spine, not from the cold, but from a feeling she couldn't quite shake. She glanced around, squinting against the falling snow, when something caught her eye. At first, she thought it was just a shadow in the distance, but then she saw it more clearly, a shape huddled near the edge of the woods. Curiosity bubbled up inside her. She stepped carefully through the deep snow, her boots sinking with each step. The shape was faint, but as she drew closer, she realized it was a dog. Lily's heart leaped with excitement. She loved animals more than anything in the world. But as she got closer, something wasn't right. The dog was lying in the snow, its legs twisted awkwardly, and it was tied to a tree with thick rope. The bloodstains on the snow around it immediately made Lily stop in her tracks. Her little hands trembled as she took a cautious step forward, her breath catching in her throat. "Oh my goodness," she whispered, her voice full of concern. The dog was a German shepherd, but its usually proud posture was now broken. Its fur was matted with blood, and its breathing was shallow. The dog's head was slightly lifted, but its eyes were distant, unfocused. Lily took another step closer, her small body shaking with both fear and determination. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked softly, crouching down at a distance, not wanting to frighten the dog further. The dog's ears twitched, but it didn't move, only letting out a soft whimper. Lily could see the injury on its back leg, and the way it was trembling made her stomach twist. It was so clear that the dog had been abandoned here, left alone to die in the snow. She bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill from her eyes. She wasn't afraid, not really, but the sight of the hurt dog made her feel a deep, aching sadness. "Don't worry," she whispered, kneeling beside the dog now. Her small hands reached out, slowly but steadily. "I'm going to help you. I won't leave you here. I promise." The dog's head shifted slightly, and Lily could see the gratitude in its eyes. There was no doubt in her mind that it was too weak to do anything on its own, but it was trying to hold on, to trust her. It was like a spark of hope in the cold, empty space. Lily's heart swelled with determination. "Just a little longer. I'll get you out of here." "But how?" Lily looked around the snow-covered woods, as if searching for some way to help. She could barely understand how this had happened. Who would do such a thing to an innocent animal? Her thoughts raced as she tried to think of what she could do next. The snow continued to fall around her, the world seeming to close in, but Lily wasn't scared. She had to help the dog. She had to save it. Then, the dog whimpered again, its body jerking slightly as it tried to lift its head. Lily's eyes widened in panic. She couldn't let it suffer any longer. Okay, she murmured, her voice shaking as she tried to calm herself. "I'll go get help. You just hang on. I'll be back." But as Lily turned to run back toward her house, a thought crossed her mind that made her freeze. She couldn't leave the dog here. Not even for a second. What if it didn't make it? What if it was too late? Lily bit her lip, her chest tight with worry. She knew she couldn't carry the dog back herself, but she didn't want to waste time running to get help. She thought for a moment, and then something clicked. She remembered the old knife her mom kept in the kitchen, the one she had seen just this morning when she'd been playing inside. It was sharp enough to cut through the thick rope. "I'll go get it," Lily whispered to herself, more confident now. She wasn't going to leave Max. Yes, she decided to call him Max. She wasn't going to leave him alone again. The small girl bolted back to her house, her pink jacket bright against the snow, her mind set on her mission. As Lily reached the door, she threw it open quickly. Her parents weren't home, and there was no time to waste. She rushed inside, her hands shaking with nervous energy as she grabbed the knife from the kitchen drawer. It was heavier than she expected, but she held it tightly. She glanced out the window, seeing the falling snow and imagining Max alone out there, in pain. She gritted her teeth, wiped her cold, wet hands on her pants, and ran back outside. Lily's boots crunched in the snow as she ran back toward the woods, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and dread. The knife in her hand felt heavier with each step, but she didn't slow down. She couldn't afford to waste a single moment. Max was depending on her. As she approached the spot where she had found him, Lily skidded to a halt. The sight of Max, so battered and helpless, made her stomach churn. His fur was matted with blood, and his breathing was shallow, like he was fighting for every breath. The snow around him was stained with crimson, and Lily's chest tightened with sorrow. "Max," she whispered, kneeling beside him once again. The dog's eyes flickered open, and he gave a faint, almost imperceptible whine. His gaze met Lily's, full of silent pleading. Lily swallowed hard. "I'm here," she said softly, though her voice was barely above a whisper. She didn't know what to do first. The ropes binding him were thick and knotted tightly around his legs. She knelt closer, feeling the cold seep into her bones as she tried to steady her trembling hands. Lily took a deep breath and focused on the task ahead. She knew she had to act quickly before Max's condition worsened. Her little fingers fumbled with the knife, trying to cut the rope, but the knot was stubborn, and the blade felt too big for her small hands. "Come on," she muttered to herself. She gritted her teeth and pulled harder, the rope refusing to yield. Her breath came faster, and she could feel tears threatening to fall, but she wiped them away quickly. Max gave another weak whimper, his leg jerking in pain, and Lily's heart broke. "I'm sorry, Max. I know it hurts, but I'm not leaving you." She spoke more to herself than to him, but it was the only thing she could say to calm her own nerves. Then, a small spark of determination flared inside her. "You're strong, Max," she whispered. "You can make it. We'll get through this together." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the rope loosened enough for her to pull it free from his legs. The dog let out a soft whine as she moved it off of him. Lily gasped when she saw the extent of the injuries. His leg was covered in blood, and several deep gashes marred his body. She ran her hands along his fur gently, trying to comfort him as she checked for any more injuries. His side heaved with each breath, but there was no time to waste. Lily knew she couldn't carry him back to the house alone. He was too heavy, too injured. But she couldn't leave him here, not like this. She looked around, scanning her surroundings. The woods seemed endless in the falling snow. It felt as though she was the only one in the world, and the weight of the silence pressed down on her. Max's faint growl startled her, and she looked down to see him trying to lift his head, his eyes locked on her face. Despite everything, despite the pain, he was still fighting. Lily swallowed hard, feeling her chest tighten. "I won't give up on you," she promised, her voice shaky. She reached down and gently cradled his head in her lap, her tiny hand stroking his fur. A few minutes passed, but it felt like hours. The storm was growing stronger, the wind howling through the trees, but Lily didn't mind. She would stay with Max as long as he needed her. She wasn't leaving. She took a deep breath, wiping the snow from her face. As she looked at Max's broken form, an idea struck her. She couldn't carry him alone, but maybe there was someone nearby who could help. There was no time to hesitate. Lily stood up, still holding Max's head in her arms, trying to keep him as comfortable as possible. She glanced around again, her breath forming visible puffs in the cold air. She remembered the old barn at the edge of the field, a safe place, just a short walk away. Maybe she could get him there for shelter. Lily bit her lip and carefully started moving backward, trying her best not to jostle Max too much. Each step felt like a battle. The wind cut through her jacket, biting at her skin, but she didn't care. She couldn't stop now. Not when Max needed her. As she trudged forward, every few steps she glanced down at the dog, checking to make sure he was still conscious, still breathing. Max's eyes were barely open, but he was with her, and that was all that mattered. The world around her blurred as she focused solely on him. Her mind raced as she thought about what to do next. She needed help, but who could she turn to? She couldn't carry Max much further, and the barn was still too far. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance. Lily squinted through the snow, her breath catching. It was a man, someone walking toward her through the storm. As he got closer, Lily could see that it was Mr. Thompson, a neighbor from down the road. "Lily," he called out, his voice barely audible above the wind. "What are you doing out here in this storm?" Lily didn't answer right away. She could barely speak, her voice caught in her throat. But she knew she needed help. She raised her hand weakly, pointing to Max, who was still resting in her lap, barely conscious. "Please, help," Lily whispered, her words choking in her throat. "Max. He's hurt, badly." Mr. Thompson's eyes widened as he saw the state of the dog. Without another word, he rushed to her side, kneeling down beside her. "Let me help you, Lily," he said, his voice firm but gentle. With Mr. Thompson's assistance, they carefully moved Max, lifting him together and heading toward the barn. Every step was a struggle, but with the older man's strength, they finally made it to the shelter. Inside the barn, the temperature was warmer, but it was still cold. Lily helped as best as she could, but her hands were trembling from the cold and exhaustion. "Stay with him, Lily," Mr. Thompson said as he quickly gathered some hay and blankets to help keep Max warm. "I'll go get help. We need to get him to a vet right away." Lily nodded, her face pale but determined. "I won't leave him," she said softly. She looked down at Max, who had closed his eyes. She stroked his fur, whispering gently, "We're safe now. We're going to make it." The wind howled outside the barn, making the old wooden walls creak and groan as if they, too, were struggling against the storm. But inside, the air was calmer, and Lily's heart slowed a little. She sat beside Max, keeping him close to her, her small hands gently petting his fur. Every now and then, she would look up at Mr. Thompson, who was rushing around the barn, trying to prepare a safe place for Max to rest. He had already gathered a few blankets and some hay to keep Max warm, but Lily could tell the dog was still in pain. His breathing was shallow, and his body twitched every now and then. "Max," Lily whispered again, her voice trembling. She didn't know how much more he could take, but she was determined not to leave him side. She was doing everything she could. Max's eyes flickered open, and his soft, pained gaze met hers. He gave her a weak, reassuring nudge with his nose, as if trying to comfort her in return. Lily smiled, her heart aching at how brave Max was, even in his condition. "You're a strong dog, Max. I know you can make it," she whispered, pressing her cheek gently against his head. Her fingers ran through his fur, offering the comfort she knew he desperately needed. Mr. Thompson returned with a small wooden box. He set it down beside them, his face full of concern. "Lily, I'm going to do everything I can to help him, but we need to get him to the vet as soon as the storm lets up. I've called the animal rescue team, and they'll be on their way to help too. Lily nodded, her heart heavy. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with worry. Will he be okay? I can't lose him, Mr. Thompson. He's my friend. Mr. Thompson's face softened as he crouched down next to her. I'm sure he's a fighter, Lily. You've done more for him already than most adults would. But it's up to the vet now. You've given him hope, and that's something. Lily bit her lip, glancing back down at Max. He fought for me. I have to fight for him. Max gave a weak, almost inaudible bark, as if in agreement. The sound was faint but comforting. Lily gently wiped the snowflakes from his fur and hugged him closer, her tears falling onto his coat. It wasn't just a promise to save him, it was a promise to protect him at all costs, no matter what it took. The storm raged on outside, but the barn was quiet and warm, save for the occasional whimper from Max as he shifted slightly. The blanket Mr. Thompson had placed around Max helped, but Lily could tell that the dog was still in discomfort. Her small fingers traced the outline of the dog's paw, wishing she could do more. Suddenly, the door creaked open again, and Lily's head snapped up. She looked up to see her mother, Mrs. Harris, standing in the doorway, her expression a mix of concern and confusion. Lily? What in the world are you doing here in this storm? I've been looking all over for you, her mother called, rushing to her side. Lily felt a rush of emotions, from relief to guilt. She had kept her secret, and she hadn't told anyone about Max. Now, her mother was here, and she knew she had to explain everything. I found him, Lily said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. He was hurt, and I couldn't leave him, Mom. I couldn't just let him die out there in the snow. Mrs. Harris knelt beside her daughter, taking a moment to glance at the wounded dog lying in Lily's lap. Her eyes softened with understanding, but there was also a hint of concern. Max? Mrs. Harris whispered, gently reaching out to touch the dog's head. Max weakly turned his eyes toward her, giving another soft, but grateful whimper. Mrs. Harris shook her head in disbelief. He's so hurt, Lily. But you did the right thing by bringing him here. Lily looked up at her mother, her eyes wide with worry. He was all alone. No one else was there to help him. Mrs. Harris nodded slowly. You have such a big heart, Lily. But we need to make sure we get him help right away. I'll call the rescue teams and see if we can get him to a vet as soon as possible. I know you're scared, but we have to trust that Max is strong enough to survive this. Lily's face brightened, hearing her mother's words. She had always looked up to her mom, how strong and calm she could be in times of trouble. I won't leave him, Lily said, her voice firm now. I won't let him go. With her mother's reassurance, Lily felt a new wave of determination. She stayed by Max's side, talking to him softly, stroking his fur, and comforting him as best as she could. The cold outside seemed to grow fiercer, and the barn creaked in protest against the storm. But inside, with Max resting in her arms, everything felt a little warmer. As the evening went on, Mr. Thompson returned with more supplies, a first aid kit for Max, and some food. He set up a small heater nearby to keep the barn warm, and soon, Lily's mom had made several calls. The rescue team confirmed they would be able to take Max to a local animal hospital, but it was going to take time for the storm to clear. The evening stretched on, with Lily by Max's side. She whispered stories of the adventures they would have together, imagining a day when Max would be strong again and they could run through the fields, just like she had always dreamed. It was then that she realized how connected she felt to Max. She wasn't just saving him, she was giving him the love and friendship he had probably never known before. And, in return, he was showing her a new kind of strength, the strength to fight for something that mattered more than anything else in the world. Max's breathing was still labored, but it was easier now, a small improvement that gave Lily hope. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew that whatever came next, she would never leave Max behind. As the storm howled outside, Lily held the dog close, her heart full of resolve. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new journey, for both of them. The hours seemed to stretch on in the dimly lit barn as the storm continued to rage outside. The wind howled, shaking the walls of the old structure, but inside, the warmth from the small heater kept the room from becoming unbearable. Lily sat quietly next to Max, her fingers gently brushing through his fur, comforting him as best as she could. Her eyes were fixed on him, her mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. Her mom and Mr. Thompson had left the barn to make some calls, trying to arrange for help. The rescue team would be there soon, but the storm was making it difficult for anyone to get through. The whole town seemed to be cut off from the rest of the world. It was just Lily, Max, and the sound of the wind outside, but in that moment, it felt like the world had stopped. "Stay with me, Max," Lily whispered softly. She could hear his labored breathing, but the gentle rhythm of it comforted her. Despite his pain, despite everything, he was still here, still fighting. And so was she. She looked up as the barn door creaked open once more. Her mother and Mr. Thompson stepped in, both looking determined. Mr. Thompson had an urgency in his steps that didn't escape Lily's notice. Her mother had a worried expression on her face, but she forced a smile when she saw Lily still sitting by Max's side. "Lily, the rescue team says it's going to be another hour at least before they can get to us," Mrs. Harris said, her voice gentle but firm. "We'll need to make sure Max stays warm in the meantime. I've called the vet's office, they're waiting for us once the road's clear." Lily nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread that twisted in her stomach. Another hour? She didn't know if Max could last that long. The wound on his leg was still bleeding slowly, and he seemed to be growing weaker by the minute. Her small fingers tightened around his paw, and she leaned in close to his face. "Don't give up," she whispered fiercely, her voice cracking slightly. "You can make it, Max. You have to." Max's eyes fluttered open, and for a brief moment, he looked directly at her. He didn't bark, didn't growl, but there was something in his gaze, something that said, "I trust you." That was all Lily needed. Her heart swelled with a new kind of resolve, and she knew she couldn't stop fighting now. It was then that Lily noticed something in Mr. Thompson's eyes, something different, something hidden. He stood back, quietly observing her and Max, his brow furrowed with a sense of concern. It wasn't the usual calm and reliable look he had when he helped out around the neighborhood. There was a tension there, something Lily couldn't quite place. Her curiosity piqued, she decided to ask. "Mr. Thompson," she began softly, not wanting to disturb the fragile calm that had settled in the barn. "Is everything okay? You seem upset." Mr. Thompson's gaze flickered toward her, his mouth tightening as if debating something. Then, he sighed deeply, wiping a hand over his face before he spoke. "It's not easy to explain, Lily," he said quietly. "But the truth is, I've seen things in this town that you wouldn't believe. Things that have been hidden for years." Lily frowned, not understanding. "What do you mean? Is this about Max? About how he was hurt?" Mr. Thompson hesitated for a long moment before replying, his voice low and filled with a strange kind of sorrow. "Max isn't just any dog, Lily. There's more to his story than you think. He wasn't abandoned out here by mistake. Someone knew he would be here, someone who didn't want him to survive." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "What? Who would do that?" He looked away for a moment, as if he was wrestling with his conscience. Finally, he turned back to her, his eyes filled with a weight of knowledge that made Lily feel uneasy. "I don't have all the answers," Mr. Thompson admitted. "But I do know that the person who left Max there, it's someone I know well. I didn't want to believe it, but it's the truth." Lily's stomach twisted with confusion. Why would someone do that to him? Why would anyone hurt a dog like this? Mr. Thompson shook his head, his jaw clenched. "Because Max isn't just a dog, Lily. He's been part of something, something big, and whoever did this wants to make sure he can't ever talk about it. Lily looked at Max, still lying in her lap, his eyes closed in exhaustion. She couldn't understand. How could a dog be involved in something dangerous, something big? Max, what are you involved in? Lily whispered to the dog, more to herself than to anyone else. Mr. Thompson's words hung in the air like a cloud of uncertainty, and Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stumbled upon something much bigger than herself. Max was no ordinary dog, he was a part of a story she had no idea about. But who could want to harm him? And why? She turned her attention back to Max, running her fingers through his fur as she tried to calm her thoughts. "You're not just any dog," she whispered, a hint of wonder in her voice. "You're special. I don't know how, but I'll find out." Mr. Thompson noticed the determined look on Lily's face. "You have a good heart, Lily. I know you want to help him. But there's more at stake here than just Max's life. I can see that now." Lily didn't fully understand what he meant, but she knew one thing for sure, she wouldn't stop until she figured it out. No matter what dangers lay ahead, she was ready to face them, for Max, and for whatever truths the storm was hiding. As the storm outside began to rage fiercer, the barn settled into an uneasy quiet. Lily's thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and fear, but she held on to one truth: Max had been there for her, and now she would be there for him. The bond between them had grown stronger than just a rescue. It was something deeper, something unspoken. Max trusted her with his life, and she would protect him with everything she had. Her mother returned after a while, bringing more supplies, and together, they did everything they could to keep Max warm and comfortable. But as the storm outside raged on, they knew they could do nothing more but wait, for the roads to clear, for help to arrive, and for Max to survive this harrowing night. The storm outside showed no sign of letting up, and the dim light of the barn flickered as the wind continued to howl, rattling the old wooden walls. Lily sat beside Max, her small frame still holding him close, whispering words of comfort into his fur, even though her hands were stiff from the cold. She had never felt the weight of responsibility so heavily, but with Max's life hanging in the balance, every moment felt like an eternity. Her mom, Mrs. Harris, had made another call, and the rescue team had assured them they would arrive as soon as the storm cleared enough for them to safely reach the barn. But Lily's impatience grew with each passing hour. She couldn't afford to wait any longer. Max needed help, and she had to do everything she could to make sure he survived. "Please, Max, hold on," Lily whispered softly. Her eyes stung with tears, but she wiped them away quickly, trying to stay strong. "I won't let anything happen to you." The dog's eyes opened briefly, his body trembling slightly. It was the first time he had reacted in a while, and Lily couldn't help but smile through her tears. Max had been her silent protector since the moment she found him, and she wouldn't abandon him now. It was then that Mr. Thompson stepped forward again, his face serious, but there was something else there, something unsettling. "I've been thinking, Lily," Mr. Thompson said, his voice low. He glanced at Max, then back at her. "I need to tell you more about what's been going on." "About Max?" Lily's heart skipped a beat. She had suspected that there was more to the story than just an abandoned dog. Max's injuries, the way he had been left out in the snow, all of it felt wrong. And now, Mr. Thompson was about to reveal something important. "You said someone did this to him because he knows something, right?" Lily asked, her voice steady despite the rising panic in her chest. She wanted answers, and now, she was determined to get them. Mr. Thompson hesitated, his hand rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "Yes, Lily. Max. He's not just a normal dog. He's been part of something bigger, a group of people who use animals for something much darker. I don't know all the details, but I know enough to tell you that whoever did this doesn't want Max talking." Lily felt the weight of his words hit her like a punch to the stomach. "What do you mean, using animals? What's happening?" Mr. Thompson swallowed hard, his face pale. Max was part of an operation where they were training dogs to track and gather information for illegal activities. People have been using animals for dangerous purposes, things I can't even fully explain. Max was one of the lucky ones. They left him behind, but he wasn't supposed to survive. They wanted to make sure he was gone. Lily's mind raced, trying to process what Mr. Thompson was saying. So, he's a part of something criminal? But why would he protect me then? He's been with me ever since I found him. Mr. Thompson nodded gravely. Because Max knows what it means to be loyal. He's a protector. And even though he was trained for those purposes, there's something inside him that wants to help people. He sees you as someone worth protecting. Lily's heart swelled with emotion. She had always known Max was special, but this? This was beyond what she could have imagined. Max has been through a lot, Lily, Mr. Thompson continued. But what's important now is that you keep him safe. There are people out there who would want to make sure he doesn't speak, literally and figuratively. We have to make sure they don't come back for him. Lily nodded, her hands shaking as she stroked Max's fur. She had already promised to protect him, and now she understood just how important that promise was. But how could she keep him safe when those who had hurt him were still out there? Suddenly, the barn door creaked open again, and this time, Lily felt a wave of relief flood over her. The storm had cleared enough for the rescue team to finally make it to them. Two figures stepped inside, wearing heavy coats and carrying large medical bags. The vet and an assistant rushed to Max's side, their professional demeanor giving Lily a sense of hope. "We're going to do everything we can for him," the vet said softly as they gently examined Max's wounds. "It's a good thing you brought him in when you did." Lily stepped back, allowing the vet to work, but her heart was still racing. As the vet carefully began cleaning Max's wounds, Lily couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Max was in good hands now, and the possibility of losing him seemed less likely with each passing second. But her thoughts kept drifting back to what Mr. Thompson had said. Max's past wasn't something she could ignore, and there was still the matter of the people who had hurt him. She glanced at Mr. Thompson, who was standing near the barn door, watching quietly. "There's still more to this," Lily said softly, almost to herself. "Isn't there?" Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. "Yes, Lily. But that's a fight for another time. Right now, you've done the most important thing, you saved Max. And that's enough." As the vet worked on Max, a thought crossed Lily's mind, a new, chilling possibility. She stood up suddenly, walking toward the barn door and looking out at the clearing snow. "You said Max was part of something big," she said, her voice firm. "But if someone is after him, why haven't they come after us yet?" Mr. Thompson stepped up beside her, his face grave. "I don't know, Lily. But it's clear that whoever left him in the snow doesn't realize that he's still alive. They may be watching, waiting for the right moment. But they don't know that you've already won." Lily looked back at him, her eyes narrowed. "I won't let them hurt him again. I'll protect him, no matter what." As if on cue, Max gave a soft, contented sigh, his breathing becoming steadier. Lily smiled, brushing away the tears that had started to gather again. He was going to make it. He was going to survive this. But the fight wasn't over. This was just the beginning. She wouldn't stop until she made sure Max was safe, until she could uncover the rest of the truth behind the dark forces that had been using him. The storm outside had cleared, but the storm in Lily's heart was just beginning. With the vet's help, Max made a full recovery, his injuries healing faster than anyone expected. But Lily knew that there was still a battle to fight. The people who had hurt Max were out there somewhere, and Lily was determined to protect him and uncover the truth. As for Max, he became more than just a dog to Lily, he was her protector, her loyal companion, and her friend. And no matter what happened next, Lily would never leave him behind. Together, they would face whatever came their way, and together, they would triumph. The story is about the courage, determination, and strength of a young girl who refuses to leave behind a wounded dog in the snow, despite the overwhelming odds. It shows how compassion and loyalty can overcome cruelty and hardship. Through her bravery and unwavering resolve, Lily saves Max, a German shepherd who has been subjected to cruelty and abandonment. As the story unfolds, the bond between them grows stronger, and they both become survivors in a world full of challenges. The story conveys a deep message about never giving up in the face of adversity. It teaches us that every act of kindness matters, even when it seems like the odds are stacked against us. Lily's actions remind us that compassion and the will to protect others, whether they are humans or animals, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. The narrative emphasizes the importance of standing up for what is right and the strength that can be found in loyalty and love. Thank you for watching this incredible story. If you've enjoyed it, please show your support by liking the video, leaving a comment with your thoughts, and sharing how it made you feel. Every interaction from you helps us create even more meaningful content. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on more inspiring stories like this one. Your support means everything to us, and each like, comment, and share encourages us to keep making videos that touch hearts. Once again, we sincerely thank you for tuning in and watching this video. We hope the story has brought inspiration and warmth to your day. See you in the next video, and remember to stay kind, brave, and true to yourself. Take care, and we'll be back with more uplifting stories soon.